Hi guys, we're back for our second topic for EKG, and we're going to get to know the conduction system a little bit. So we're going to look at the structures inside of the heart that generate and conduct the electrical impulses. So remember in EKG, when we look at the different waveforms in EKG, they represent electrical events. So we're never going to look at a wave and say, oh, that wave represents atrial contraction. Nope. It represents the electrical event that should then trigger a contraction. So we're going to say it represents like atrial depolarization that should trigger contraction. So think that EKG is electrical, not mechanical. But right now we're just going to look at the structures inside of the heart that make up the conduction system and a little overview of what they do and about the sequence of electrical events that occurs inside the heart. So I'm going to draw out the four chambers of the heart. We got our right atrium. I have a personal problem with that. We got our right ventricle. We have our left atrium. And then we have our big left ventricle. Because really most of your heart is your left ventricle. It's a squeezer, right? Your left ventricle has a lot more mass, a lot more muscle than any of the other chambers of your heart, by far. So it draws more blood, uses more oxygen, and it draws more electricity than any other part of your heart. Most of your heart is your left ventricle. Because when it squeezes, it has to generate enough blood pressure to shoot blood to every part of your body, from your scalp to your toes, every single capillary bed in your body, all your organs. When the right side of your heart pumps, it only has to get blood from your heart to your lungs. So it's a low pressure system. It just has to be like, and then the blood just goes over. So your left ventricle is like a big muscular squeezer, and your right ventricle lays on top of it like a flap. It's just a flapper. So your left ventricle is much bigger. All right, so let's put some structures in here. The first one to start us off is the sinus node. So we can call this the sinus node, or we can call it the SA node. It's the sinoatrial node. So we can call it the SA node, or people call it the sinus node. This is where sinus rhythm, normal heart rhythms, start. So these cells have a lot of automaticity, which is a characteristic that means that these cells can just create electrical impulses. They don't have to receive it and pass it on. They can just create it. So heartbeats, if you have a normal sinus rhythm, should originate from here. And that's good because it's right at the top. And we know that we want electricity to start at the top and go down so that sequencing can be correct. Okay. So heartbeat should start at the sinus node, and from there they're going to flow down to the AV node. So it's the atrioventricular node, I think, something like that. It's like atrium and ventricles. And it's at the four corner area. So it's between the atrium and ventricles and kind of right between the right and the left. Because of course this is not anatomically correct. But it's like at the four corner region. So we're going to put it like right in here. And this is going to be your your AV node. All right, so electricity starts in your sinus node or your SA node, and it's going to travel to your AV node. How is it going to get there? Well, it needs some electrical pathways that it can easily travel, that electricity can easily travel. So there's going to be some pathways in between these two nodes. And we'll just put them like these dotted lines. So it's pathways between nodes. So these are intranodal pathways. Intranodal pathways. Sometimes you'll see them in a book as intra-atrial pathways because they are indeed within atria. Intranodal pathways is usually how I see them written. So they're between the SA node and the AV node. And they're like little highways where electrical current can just zip down there very easily. So electrical current starts here. As it zips down towards the AV node, it's spreading out in every direction. So electrical current is not like a line of people walking behind each other. Electrical current is like dropping a pebble in a pond, and there's concentric circles moving ever further outwards. So every place that electricity sparks, electricity is spreading out, 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 out. And as it touches each myocardial cell, they get the shock and then they contract. So what we want is for most of the cells in these atria to receive electricity at about the same time, so they all get depolarized and contract at the same time. So you get a unified contraction. Okay, now you might be thinking, Cynthia, what about the left atrium? Everything's happening over here on the right side, and we want synchrony on the right and the left. Very good question, because that's very important to have synchrony on the right and the left. We do have a thing. We have an interatrial tract that goes over here and will start spreading electricity over to the left side. It's inter because it's connecting two different ones. Atrial tract. And then from here, we got some of these tracts that will lead back to the AV node. All right, so electricity starts here. Some of it zips straight over to the left. Then it comes down all these intranodal pathways. It all comes back here and pulls into the AV node. So it all funnels back into the AV node. Then all the atria have been depolarized. They all then should contract if the heart muscle is working the way it's supposed to. That's atrial kick. Now we get to the atrial node. What is its job? It has two jobs. One job, after it receives all of this, is it is kind of like the gatekeeper. So it's going to hold all that electricity, all those electrical impulses, for just a moment or two, and I bet you know why. Why is it going to hold it and create a little pause? To allow these AV valves to slam shut after atrial kick has occurred. So it's going to hold on to all the electrical impulses just for a moment or two, just for a part of a second, to allow these valves to slam shut before sending electrical current down to the ventricles and triggering them to squeeze. All right, so then when the timing is right, we're ready to accelerate some electricity down to the ventricles, but we gotta like shoot it out of there. So we have a bunch of fibers that come down off of the AV node. We have a bundle of fibers that are there to accelerate the electricity and shoot it down towards the ventricles. And this bundle of fibers is called the bundle of His. So sometimes we just call it the B of H. Put it like that too. So these little fibers, like little octopus legs hanging down, bundle of His. Its job is to accelerate the electricity and start shooting it down. All right, now we got to get electricity over here to the right ventricle, and we got to get electricity over here to the left ventricle. And what's important is we want to try to get electricity to touch nearly all the cells that are contracting cells at just about the same time, because we want them all to squeeze together. What you wouldn't want is to bring electricity and have some cells start contracting, but these cells haven't gotten anything yet. Because what would happen if these contracted and these were just sitting there? Well, the blood would all get pushed to this side and then relax. And then this would contract and the blood would all slosh. So you get sloshing, right? We need it all to squeeze in so that this door will open and the blood will be pushed out. Okay, but the first thing is we just got to get electrical current to these general areas. So those are going to be the bundle branches. We only need one to come over here to the right ventricle because it's just a little flapper. It's not that big. There's not much meat to cover. So we have a right bundle branch. That comes over here. And we have a left bundle branch. It starts coming over here. But the left ventricle is very, very big and has a lot of mass. So what happens to the left bundle branch is it has to bifurcate. It has to break into two. And one bifurcation, one strand or fascicle of the left bundle branch is going to come high in the front, anterior superior, and one fascicle is going to break off and go low in the back so that it's hugging the left ventricle like this, right? See 3D modeling right here. Who says I'm not high tech? I could be high tech. All right, so we got one fascicle coming high in the front, and then I'm going to make a dotted line to represent that you can't see it, but there's one going low in the back, okay? So this one is going low in the back. So these are the two fascicles of the left bundle branch. And I'll put in parentheses, you have an anterior superior, and you have a posterior inferior fascicle. All right. If you know that, you already know more than a lot of nurses that are working in cardiology. Okay. Now, we're doing good. We got current generally to the areas, but that doesn't mean if I got electricity here, all the cells in here and here are going to start contracting, but what about the ones way out here? What about the ones way out here? So the very last piece of the conduction system is we got these long, skinny filaments, very thin strands that are going to come off of the bundle branches. It's looking creepy. And they're going to weave in and out of the myocardium, and they're going to try to touch as many individual myocardial contracting cells, which is what most of the heart is contracting cells, as they can. So we got these creepy, branching, thin strands coming off of the bundle branches, trying to reach as many individual cells so that all the cells get touched with electricity at once. And it's happening from this fascicle as well in the back. And some of these are going to touch. Okay, remember these are not blood vessels. So if you're starting to look at this and think, oh, I know what these, I'm not even going to say words that will mix you up. But if these are starting to look like blood vessels, they're not. This is all electricity. This is all the conduction system. So what are these stringy, tiny things in here? These are Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers, their job is to try to reach as many individual cells as possible and then shock them all at the same time, so then hopefully they all contract together. And you get a nice, good systole that will open that pulmonic valve or open that aortic valve, and all the blood will go out at the same time. You got a great ejection fraction. That's the goal. All right, so parts of the conduction system. Sinus node at the top. This is where the sinus rhythm begins. So it's the main generator of a normal heartbeat. Then electricity is going to shoot over here to the left atria. It's going to go down the intranodal tracts, bring electricity all to these cells in the atria. Got it that time. which should cause them to contract and give us atrial kick, all the electricity is going to funnel to the AV node. AV node's going to hold it for a little pause. Because of what? Let the AV valves shut. Okay. Then it's going to shoot the electricity down. The bundle of His will help to accelerate it because we don't want this heartbeat taking like too long. We've got to speed it up. Shoots it down the bundle branches, shoots out into the Purkinje fibers, shocks everything, then hopefully contraction occurs, and then we have a T wave that occurs, lets everything reset. All right, so how does this relate to waves that are occurring on the EKG? Let's figure it out. When the sinus node comes up with electricity, shoots it over here, and the atria depolarize, during this time, it creates what we call a P wave. So first we just get a flat line where it means the machine is on, but there is no electrical activity happening. But then when this atrial activity occurs, atrial depolarization, it causes a small wave that we're going to call the P wave. So we know that atrial depolarization occurred. Then hopefully atrial kick happened, but that's mechanical. We can't see that on EKG. We can only see the depolarization. Then it all goes to the AV node, and the AV node holds it. So what should happen during that time on our EKG strip? Nothing, just a flat line. So we better see some flat line in here. We want it. There should be a flat line in there to allow those AV valves to shut. Then electricity is going to shoot down to the ventricles. These big ventricles, including all this mass, is going to depolarize. So we're going to get a really big waveform. You can tell it's going to be much bigger than this because the ventricles are way bigger, way more cells. So this is when we get our big QRS complex. And then we get a waveform that allows, it's all the cells of the ventricles repolarizing or resetting. So this is our QRS. And we will talk about these more, but this is kind of just like a little overview. And then when they reset, it's bigger than a P, and it downslopes a little in the back, and that's a T wave. My marker's failing me. Let's see. T wave. QRS. That's a T. Here's the P wave. It all holds here. Here's the pause after the P. Ventricles depolarize. That's this entire complex of the QRS right here. And then as the ventricles reset, here's the T wave. Now you might be asking yourself, what about the atria? Don't they have to reset? It's a very good question. They do have to reset. If this is the ventricles firing, and this is them resetting, then this is the atria firing, then this is where they would be resetting. Whoops, I'm getting a notification. So it would be in here, but it would be so little you never see it because it's during the QRS. That's the answer to that. All right, so take a look at this. We're going to talk about these things a lot more, but here's just kind of an introduction, and you want to make sure you know these parts of the conduction system, and we'll cover it a lot in class, but at least you have a little intro to it. All right, talk to you soon.